I want to express my appreciation for everyone being here tonight. What I want to do is extract from each of you a promise that around 11 or 11:30 tonight, you will meet with old Dad at the bar. That's what I would. Could I see a show of hands of those who agree with that? Thank you very much. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? You know, last night I talked with you, and I explained to you what the good old days. Do you remember the good old days?
Absolutely.
Do you remember our talking about the good old days?
I do.
Okay? These are the good old days. That's what we said when we were there in Iraq. There is nothing that binds people together better than combat itself. That's why you're here and you talk back and forth. I don't comment often, but I read every word you say. And so I'm there watching, and I'm loving every bit of it. Now, I really do want to see Jeannie. Now, you're the one I want to see. Come on up. Where's Dan?
Right.
Danny? Come on up. Now, last night you were smooching on her. Yeah, last night you were smooching on her while the command sergeant major was talking now. I don't know that anyone's ever written this, but you can't do that while the command sergeant major is talking. You can't be smooching on her neck, and that's what the command sergeant major is. Okay, but this is the mother hen of the 284. Okay? She's the one who inspired many of you to say yes in the beginning. And she's been on the net so many times, and she has gathered people for a group like this, and she, I think, is probably the most inspired person here individually, and probably is most pleased to see her friends of any of you. Are you not there?
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
And this guy's been hanging out with her for what, 24, 25 years?
7 months, 3 days, a couple hours.
Thank you very much. Ken Moore. Kenny? Ken Moore.
I'm sorry.
Come on up, Ken.
All right.
Ken's on.
It's like, what?
He calls me Dad, I call him son. It's been that way. I met him first in 1983 when I took command of the 709th Military Police Battalion. I was an infantry officer, and I needed a headquarters detachment commander. And I viewed the full array of officers within the battalion as I traveled from place to place. And at that time, the 709th had all the troops that are currently in the 18th MP Brigade. Now, 2 battalions, at that time, 1 battalion, all combined, and about 2,200 troops. So we're huge. 26 different communities. He was in Hanau. Okay, when I went through Hanau, he was hanging out in the road. And so I looked at him and talked to him too, and I went on. Well, my headquarters detachment commander, I really didn't have one. He was an assistant S3, and if you know command, you know you can't have an assistant S3 being a detachment commander as an additional duty. That didn't work, okay? But that was the plan at the time. Well, it wasn't my plan. I inherited it, so I decided, man, I will. So I visited his company commander. He and I seminared for about a minute. And he and I understood at the end of that minute that Ken was going to come to Frankfurt. Lieutenant Ken Ward. Okay, so he came to Frankfurt. Worked there with me for a couple of years. And, he and I have been together ever since. He's talked to me, I've talked to him. We communicated in in writing, by phone, message, and so forth. I promoted, or I was at his promotion for Lieutenant Colonel. And I think some other guy promoted me actually, but I spoke to him. Okay, and that's what's important, right? I was there for
You were there?
Yeah. Okay, so, lo and behold, miracles happen, you know, and I'm working in Washington, trudging in knee-deep mud in Washington, and I'm selected for colonel and commander. And so, where am I going to go? I'm in the 18th. It's only 100 yards from the 709. So they selected me to go to the 18th. And so, what were you going to do?
History training.
Yeah, that's right. So I told Milton, the fellow who's the S3 is trying to get, did he want to fly over Frankfurt? So he came in and he commanded. He's your commander, right? So
Get some.
Yeah, and we went to work. We went to work. So give your company commander, please, a round of applause.
Hey. Hey.
I want to tell you something. The 284, in my view, was not in the best shape at the time Captain Ward entered the 284. But
We don't know anything.
I'm on nothing. I know something. What I know was 284 was not in good shape. People have asked me, why'd you select the 284? I selected 284 because I wanted a company right down the street from me, the strongest military police company in the Army. Okay? It was not at the time. What I knew from Vietnam, I was served a couple of years there, is that nothing binds people like combat. Nothing. And you know why? Because in combat, you're standing beside each other, and whether you live or die may depend on the person to your left or to your right. And you learn to live that way with people, and they learn to live that way with you. And you do become brothers and sisters, and that's what you've been calling yourselves, brothers and sisters. And I appreciate that. I like to read that, okay? We went there, didn't lose a person, everybody came home, and when we got back to 284th, was a strong, powerful company. And it stayed that way because of what you did together as brothers and sisters. Right? Okay, Chris Stock, are you here, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Chris.
Come on over. David Lowry. Hey, man. David Lowry. I introduced you last night. Dave and Chris are responsible for this display. Okay? And I want you to please give them a round of applause.
Hey.
Very humble people, both of them. Now, David came to me a moment or two ago, and he didn't want me to cite him again, and he was a little uncomfortable with the things that I said about him last night because they were too positive. I said, David, there's no such thing as being too positive. I said the truth. I stated factually the truth. And thank you, David. You have read his name on messages so many times. Now you get to meet the person in person. And so if you haven't had the opportunity to chat with him, please do. Next up, I want to talk to you about the 527.
Strike deep.
Strike deep.
Yeah, give me a show of hands to the 527. Okay. There you are. Hey, excuse me. Move the hat. Come on.
Somebody clear your throat.
Put your hat back on. Tim Quavis.
Where's Tim?
It's hose on it.
Get your pony inside.
I had five companies in the 709, and I want to tell you, every one of them going great. The 284th had problems up front because of where they were in Frankfurt. Frankfurt was like Paris, if you will. You could do anything,
Cool.
whatever you wanted. And they needed a bonding, cohesive force which combat served for them. The 527th, on the other hand, was cool and calm and professional all the time. All the time. And so, they told me, you need a company. Who did I go to? I said, let me see, which company is Michael Kine? Oh, yeah, that's 527. Michael, let's bring the 527, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's give 527. These are my bodyguards, as you understand. Joe, you here tonight? He's not. He gave me this last night. My first driver. My second and my third. I brought him back. Okay, I'm going to tell you a quick story about him. Okay, he's been in my house several times. He lives in New Orleans. Okay, and the city of Birmingham itself, the city is almost totally black. Okay, you've got 800,000, and about 95% of them are black. Okay, and when you get out from north side, you get into the suburbs, you know, you got a different change. Everybody's white, okay? So he's coming in on the train to spend Thanksgiving with Mom and me. And I over and over and over again, and during the months leading up, he called me no less than 10 times, explaining to me that he had just met the love of his life. How many loves of your life can you meet, son?
They called 10 times.
Can you hang on to one long enough to bring her for Thanksgiving? Oh, yes, sir. I'm all right. Well, he came along. The train station is in Birmingham North. I walked in the train station to pick him up winter. And I walked in, and I did not get a lot of smiles, okay? I'm the only white guy in there. There must have been 50 black people in there, and they were looking at me like you're invading my territory. Well, here came the train, and off stepped Chris. Now, the only difference between the way he's dressed now and the way he was dressed then is he had a black turtleneck on and an Outback black coat that came down to here. And he stepped off the train and said, "Dad!" I said, "Son!" People were opening doors for me. I said, yeah, I knew you about good looks would eventually get to you. Thank you, son. Listen, don't get in trouble in that, okay? These two were fighting over a girl at lunch today. I made them both sit down and be quiet, okay? So, thank you, buddy. Okay? Give my hand.
Sir, not too much.
It's okay. You can't get no big. No, unfortunately. Lenny didn't have a name tag. And you know,
Wrong me arrested?
people are always our most precious assets. And so, being a fellow who cares about people, I removed my name tag and put it on him. And you know what? He's wearing the Ed Delk name tag, and he said only one person recognized that today. And he's been wearing this thing for 3 hours.
Sir,
Okay, so Ed, I'm glad you're here. Let's give Ed a big round. Of course, my partner has been my partner for a long, long time. He knows, as everyone else knows, when you become a senior guy, you've got to always have something to say. So, senior guy, you need to say something.
Okay.
With
The hilarity, the camaraderie is unbelievable. However, I would just like to take a moment to recognize some. Barry? There.
I thought you were looking to drive for the other bear. Thanks, Armour. Some rough one, thanks. A lot of you, I don't know, any of you know, we lost one of our fellow military policemen back 2000. Great soldier, a great American. Roy Turner. Roy, when he left the Army, went to work at the Fayetteville Police Department and was killed in the line of duty. So, if you have a drink in your hand, do me a favor and raise a toast to Roy.
Roy Turner.
I think it's important to recognize so many people within our organization. And oftentimes there are a lot of folks that do things behind the scenes are never ever given credit for what they did, what they've done, and so on. The tallest man in the room right over there is Mike Brower. Mike Brower is our deputy commander. He was a force. He supported his boss as a commander. He did so many things behind the scenes. Oftentimes, deputy commanders never get recognized. He's a friend of mine. He's been a friend of mine forever. We had constant conversations together and so on. We were reeling from the day that we were getting our butts chewed out by this guy. But, no, that's okay.
Wasn't me.
The other thing, I would be totally remiss if I didn't recognize, well, first of all, let's give the Big Mike a group. You know, we picked up a sister battalion there at the end, 7-9-30 battalion out of Nuremberg, and their command sergeant major was a guy by the name of Bob Henry. I don't know if anybody here knew the other one, okay? But Bobby's no longer with us. He passed away a couple of years ago and had a heart attack, but he was part of the ever vigilant team as well. And I just thought I'd mention his name. The other thing is, I was very blessed to be a part of that organization. I was probably one of the very few people when I walked in the door that wore the combat patch of the MP Brigade on my right sleeve, and the organization left. And I recall General Garner. He looked at me and he said, "You got the same patch on both sides." I said, "Yes, sir. Served in the Republic of Vietnam." And I was totally blessed as time went on because I had 9 sergeant majors in that brigade. And every one of them became, or already had been, a combat leader. And they were just totally awesome, okay? I don't believe that in all these years, that I've monitored, tracked, and been invited to do various different things and so on in the MP Corps, because I lived real close. I lived in Southern Illinois in the MP school down in Missouri. So oftentimes I would go to whatever. But I went to a lot of different events and so on. I don't think I ever went to a private setting like this where we had as many sergeant majors attend. And all the sergeant majors want to come on up here. Ed?
Which end?
Free Eds.
Which end?
And as you know, as time went on, the babies grew up to be sergeant majors. So, Barry Oaks, come on up here. Sergeant Major retired Barry Oaks. So, this is an opportunity because, you know, you don't try to be boastful, okay? But this is a very historic moment in time to have these many calls all together at one time. And please take your pictures and so on.
Why don't you get over there too, Jim?
Oh, good enough.
All right, guys. This is the way you help us.
Hey.
I mentioned being boastful and so on. Just on the day I retired, we took a bunch of photographs and so on. And there was one picture that kind of stood out. And it's, many of you have probably seen it on the internet and so on. And you'll see it show up here on the slide here in a moment. That's me, it's a picture of me and Dad. And we're standing right in front of the brigade headquarters on the map that says every division. And to me, I think that's a very historic photograph. Because you just don't get to see that kind of leadership, and I'm not bragging, but you just don't get that kind of leadership represented at a certain point in time. It's like the cosmos or whatever, okay? And that just happened. Nothing planned, it just happened. So, I have the original. If any of you would like to have an 8x10 in it, I will make sure you have a copy of that, okay? I will sign it, and I'll get over there to sign it, okay? And I guess that's about it. No, I don't want to. Good.
I want to follow up on some of the things here. As far as the picture's concerned, you can fill out the roster and all that, but, you know, the cash, you need to slip to me. Don't take any photos of me while you give me the money. Okay? But I want to follow up on a couple of things. Mike, come up here for a second. You know, when the command sergeant major says that the man works behind the scenes, I mean, that's true. And I want to follow up on what the command sergeant said and tell you that I am humbled by the fact that you have made the effort to come to two events. And I'm so very pleased that you're here today. Sorry Jimmy couldn't make it. This man, he is not in any way a person who wants to present himself as he is behind, he did so many wonderful things and gave me credit for them. You know, I didn't do them, he did them. But he said our commanders did this for us, so he did. He ran the installation. You see, I was a brigade commander, corps program marshal, installation commander, and sub-community commander. That's what we did when we were together there. You know, and he ran about half of that. And nobody looked at him, and he did an extraordinary superb job, and I got the credit for it. I didn't even know what was going on.
I'm sure you got the brigade.
Thank you, my friend. Those sergeants major. Benny Connor, he's the troublemaker, okay? Because Mama would have parties at the house, and have 150, 125 people, okay? And every single time she had a party, it would rain. So what happens? Everybody comes in the house. Now, she was doing things so easily. Made all of the hors d'oeuvres herself. Didn't get anything out of frozen boxes and that kind of thing. And laid them out. You know, and we had Dan O'DeBoe, we had Al Mahan, we had John Simmons. And I said, hey guys, God, give people an opportunity to eat some of those pecan pies other than you, you know? But here, Benny, what had happened, he said Sergeant Major said he had 9 Sergeant Majors. That's true. He had 9. And here's what would happen every single time. And I'd watch it. 15 minutes, 20 minutes after people came there and they were getting the wine and the beer. That's what Mama offered to them. No hard liquor, because we want to take care of it. Make sure they get the first one. Well, you know, as soon as the first glass of wine went down, then Benny would say, "Hey, sir, what's the good stuff?" I said, "It's the same place?" I said, "Yeah, it's the same place, Benny." So here's a cupboard in the kitchen. All the sergeants major. Jim and I would be in the kitchen. And once we were in the kitchen, you young whippersnappers, lieutenants and captains didn't come in there. That was the way it was, right?
Yes, sir.
You know, you didn't go traipsing through a bundle of sergeants major. You just didn't do that. So I love you guys for what you've done. I can't express in words how many lives you have saved. In Desert Storm, provide cover. God bless you. Everything about you. You're the rock solid ones of this organization. And I want to say to you all, thank you once again for coming. And Chris, I'm going to have Chris come up for a moment, then I'll close it out. But Chris has a letter from the current commander of the 709, and I'll just ask Chris to read.
So, as the Colonel just said, from our current brothers and sisters in arms in the 709th MP Battalion, I know we've got 93rd folks and sergeants major here. Welcome to you too. But as it so happens with the Army and with the service, there's a circle, isn't there? So the young lady who happens to be the executive officer of the 709th MP Battalion was one of my lieutenants when I was the executive officer of 716th. So a couple of years later, here she is, and she helped David out with this letter. And this is from the battalion commander. It says, "Veterans, family, and friends of the 709th Military Police Battalion. Although Command Sergeant Major Weatherholt and I can't be with you at this time, it is an honor and privilege to be included in your reunion. Above all else, thank you for your selfless service and sacrifices to our country. Whether you served in 1944 and swept across France with B Corps, or paved the way into Iraq in the early hours of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, you are part of a legacy that endures, legendary forever in memory, and will carry on in the streamers that decorate the history of our great battalion colors. The 709th MP Battalion remains the sole military police force provider in Europe. Included in our formation are the headquarters, 92nd Military Police Company, 527th Military Police Company, 529th Military Police Company, 554th Military Police Company, the 615th Military Police Company, and 3 military working dog detachments. We total 1,100 soldiers and have a presence in 13 military communities in Germany, Italy, and Belgium. Additionally, we have 3 military working dog handlers forward deployed in Afghanistan and 2 handlers in Kosovo. We have a platoon from the 529th Military Police Company in Kosovo as well. Our battalion continues to be at the forefront of the most important missions in Europe. You may have recently seen coverage in the news of the tactical road marches Lieutenant General Hodges is directing across the continent to demonstrate freedom of movement, assure our allies, and deter our adversaries. The first of these was Operation Dragoon Ride, a 1,141-mile movement from Tapa, Estonia to Vilseck, Germany by the 3rd Squadron, 2nd Cavalry Regiment. Our soldiers screened forward of the troop to provide early warning, secured the convoys, static displays and rest sites, and liaison with the host nation police to ensure effective response to contingency events. Anybody in here ever done any of that? The MPs performed admirably and were awarded the cavalry's coveted silver spurs at the conclusion of the road march. Since the successful completion of Operation Dragoon Ride, the battalion was called upon 2 other times to support these strategic road marches across Romania, Operation Cavalry March, and most recently from Vicenza, Italy to Tapa, Estonia, Operation Unified Passage in support of 173rd Infantry Brigade Combat Team. In addition to supporting these critical operations, the battalion continues to provide professional law enforcement to the military communities in Europe conduct deployment readiness exercises and collective training to maintain survivability skills and combat support proficiency, support the vast majority of in-transit rail missions to protect critical arms, ammunition, and equipment, provide salute battery supported honorary events, and send soldiers to their requisite NCOES and professionally developing courses. Again, we've never done any of that. It sounds like a lot because it is. 709th Military Police Battalion will not rest on past accomplishments. We continue to press, and the stellar soldiers within the ranks consistently impress. Finally, throughout history, military policemen have been soldiers with many skills, and as the battlefield advances into an even more complex and asymmetrical space, we continue to press the battalion to evolve and maintain its relevancy. I have no doubt that if we are called again, we would make you proud and strive to serve as selflessly as you did, forging the very valiant history of the battalion. Enjoy the camaraderie at the reunion this weekend. There in spirit, warriors. Signed, Matthew Gregg, Lieutenant Colonel, Military Police.
That we, she and I, appreciate so very, very much, each of you being here with us during this weekend. We wanted it to be especially good, where you didn't have to pay an arm and a leg. You come in with no rigid schedules, no guest speakers, no conferences, no briefings, upfront charges or anything like that. You meet with the people that you want to meet with, you eat with the people that you want to eat with, and you just have a wonderful time. So, thank you so much for coming. And God bless you all.
Colonel Delk, you may remember me. But I was up in D.C. and I mentioned to the folks up in D.C. I happen to work for Homeland Security now. At least I got a job working out. And they're thank you. Homeland Security and Immigration Services happens to be a very vet-friendly organization. That has not always been our experience, that people even understand. You talked about understanding what it is. Everyone in the room went through that brotherhood, that sisterhood. It's not understood out there very often. However, as I mentioned, I was up there at headquarters. I mentioned that I was going to fly back here so that I could at least spend an evening with the Delks. And one of the things that the Associate Director of the CIS mentioned was that we should at least give you a token and thank your service and thank you for your service. And by that, you represent all of us. So this really is for all of us. It's not a Delky doll. But, from the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration Services, they wanted to thank you for your service, and by extension, wanted to thank all of us for our service. So,
I gladly accept this on behalf of those who are here. Okay, thank you. Was that Dane?
where's the other Ed?
Ed Beach had an idea years ago. It was back when we were all working together. He wanted to start a line of clothing called Simply Ed. It was going to be Ed Beach, Ed Dean, and Ed Delk. And so,
And who wouldn't want to buy clothes like that?
like the highest sheep, sir. Wonderful idea. So, I said, okay, get the business plan going, okay? That's fine. Well, he got to a certain point in time, and I asked him, I said, well, what's the status? Well, he said, well, we're going to need you, get you involved a little bit. I said, well, wait a minute. I don't have any money to front, okay? I can't front any money, so you guys got to come cash. I don't actually want to work. But I will speak with you from time to time and give you advice, and I'll gladly share in the profits Okay? Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Simply Ed, never know.
Okay. I don't have anything long-winded, but I do think that we all would be remiss if we didn't recognize the two great leaders of the 18th MP Brigade who really are the inspiration behind doing a reunion, and who many of us look up to, and epitomize leading, caring, and training. And so here's Colonel Delk and Sergeant.
Now, this is our night, last night here, and I know that, tomorrow morning's going to be a mad rush to the door, to the airport, and so forth. So please do enjoy this evening together, and we'll be around here for a while, and I just say again how much I appreciate it coming. And I do believe, honestly, that those who decided or were unable to come, decided not to come, or were unable to do so, will be great. So thank you, and let everybody know what a wonderful time you had, okay?
Sure. A lot of you have mentioned that you would like to have a full crew. All right, let's go. Here we go. Here we go. Old MacDonald.
That's all they deserve.
And Beach, get over here. Captain Ward. Get some. Get some. Strike deep.
Strike the ball.
Northern.
He made that strike. Do you know? Last time.